power of Sencha XJS components into React. While we will not be showing it today, we used RAD server for the backend. Take in mind that you can use any backend of your choosing. So let's start. We have here Rodrigo Guillén with us from Filestack. I am here, Andres Villalba from Sencha. And without further ado, I'll let my good friend Rodrigo start the presentation. Go ahead, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Andres. And well, now I want to talk about what is Filestack. Well, Filestack is essentially a comprehensive solution for uploading, transforming, and delivering files in applications. It allows users to easily upload content from anywhere, enhancing the experience with a powerful user-friendly API. With Filestack, you can not only upload files but also transform and optimize them before even reach your application. Where you need to resize images, convert documents, or apply filters, all of this can be done directly on the network. Filestack also offers advanced AI services such as virus detection, text recognition, and emotion analysis, ensuring the content is handled securely and efficiently. Filestack is the #1 choice for developers looking to manage files securely and efficiently, improving the reliability and speed of their applications with its content ingestion network and robust delivery infrastructure. And now let's talk about Froala. Essentially, Froala is a rich text editor that has revolutionized how we create and edit web content. Froala is a JavaScript-based editor known for its clean and elegant design, offering an intuitive and smooth user experience. One of Froala's key advantages is its ease of integration, compatible with over 15 frameworks, including React, Angular, and Vue. Froala fits seamlessly into a development environment, making it easy to create content without needing to learn new technologies. Additionally, its toolbar is fully customizable, allowing developers to tailor the interface and functionalities to the specific needs of their application. Froala is not only elegant but also powerful. With over 35 plugins, it offers a wide range of advanced features, such as text and table formatting, media insertion, and more, making it easy to create professional content. Additionally, Froala comes with comprehensive documentation, guiding users through all these features to ensure effectively implementation and usage. And now, Andres will explain more about Sencha.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about what is Sencha and what is ReExt. Sencha is a robust front-end framework. It has more than 140 components. It includes grids, charts, panels, windows, forms, buttons, fields, and many others. Apart from those components, it also comes with several applications. One of them is Sencha Architect, which is a graphic IDE that lets you just click and drag components into your work area. It also comes with Sencha Themer, which basically it's an application that lets you theme or design your color palette, font, and things like that. It has several other applications and tools like ReExt, Sencha Test, RapidXJS, and other things that we can talk about in a different webinar. For now, what's important is also talking about ReExt, because we will be using that one. It's one of the newest Sencha tools, and it allows you to take the power of XJS components into React. It is available on this address up here, and you need npm to actually download it, but we have a few instructions there, which I will be showing today. And we also have a kitchen sink for ReExt, where you can see how easy it is to take Sencha components into React. So what we will be creating is the following application. It's a simple image gallery that will show all the images we upload, and they will be linked to a user. If we click on one of those images, we're going to have some text describing that image. Of course, if we were creating an image gallery, we would have built a login screen. We don't have the time to show you a login screen. So all we did when you click the upload button, you select the user that it's going to upload this image. Again, this is just for time's sake. Then we are using Filestack to select and upload one file, let's say this one. Filestack gets the image and it compresses it. And then we use Froala to capture some description. Like we said, Froala is a WYSIWYG editor, so you can add all kinds of styles. The image has been uploaded. Once it is ready, it's going to show up as part of our application. And you can see here's the text we entered and the image. Now, Before we actually build the application, Rodrigo is gonna talk with us and he's gonna show us how to use Filestack and how to integrate also Froala. So go ahead, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Andres. And well, right now, I'm going to explain more about FileSack. So in this section of the webinar, I'm going to show you how you can actually upload your files using the FileSack picker. The FileSack picker is a beautiful interface that you can use to directly upload your files. And well, since the application was built in React, I'm going to show you how to use the React FileSack SDK. In order to use this SDK, you just need to run this command into your terminal in the folder of your application, and then you will be able to use all the components from this SDK. There are three types of pickers, and well, depending on the application needs, you will use one or other. So let's explore all of them. Our first picker, the overlay one, will essentially be displayed into the entire web page. And to use it, you just need to import the picker overlay component from the FileSack React SDK and create this component into your view. Then you just need to add your own API key. An API key is an identifier of your account, and you can find this API key when you log in into your FileSack developers portal in the right corner. Now, if we add this API key and import the component into our main view, we are going to be able to see our picker into our web application. Right now, we can upload files to our FileSack account. And as you can see, we already uploaded a file. So now, if we go to our developers portal, on the content browser section, we're going to find this file stored into our FileSack account. And now, let's try the inline picker. Essentially, this picker is going to be displayed into the HTML. So for example, you maybe have a web page and you want to incrust the picker into your own HTML for design, for example. So in this case, we are going to import the picker inline component from the FileSack React SDK. And we're going to add this component. Remember that for every component, you will need to add your API key. And well, with this picker inline component, you will need to also specify a container with a specific class in which the picker will be displayed. For this specific component, we also need to add a specific width and a height. And that's it. And now I'm going to show this component instead of the picker overlay one. And now we refresh our web page, we can see this picker instead. And we can upload files from here. And finally, let's go to the drop pane picker. This picker is the minimalistic way to show the FileSack picker. With this picker, you can show only the drop zone into your web page. With this, you can give more designed and more intuitive ways to upload files. So right now, I'm going to import the drop pane component from the FileSack React SDK, and I'm going to add this component. Remember that the API key is required, and like in the inline picker, we are going to add a div container in which the component will be displayed. And now I'm going to bring this component into my main view and show this component instead of the other ones. Now, if we refresh our web page, we can see this new component. And we can upload files from here as well. And now, what happens if you're not using React? Well, don't worry, because you can actually use the JavaScript library from FileSack. To implement this, you just need to add these libraries into your HTML. And now, in this new component, I will show you how to actually use the file picker using just vanilla JavaScript with the FileStack library. You can see that here in this component, there is just one button. And if I click this button, one function will run. In this function, I will open the file picker. Right now, I just need to import the FileStack library. And then here, I just need to define my API key. And then I'm going to initialize the FileStack picker using the methods init picker. And finally, I will open this picker. And that's it. So I will add this into my main view and show this component instead of the other ones. And now, if we reload our web page, we're going to see this new component And now we are able to upload our files to our Filestack account. And now that we already covered some basic aspects from Filestack, we are going to delve into an advanced feature of Filestack called workflows. Essentially, the workflows are powerful automation processes that allow you to handle files in a structured and efficient way. Whether you're dealing with images, documents, or videos, workflows can help streamline your file management tasks. So basically, there are a series of steps of tasks that you can configure to process files automatically. These tasks can include anything from transforming images, converting documents, resizing videos, to analyzing content. The beauty of workflows is that they can be customized to meet the specific needs of your application. And additionally, you don't have to worry about coding anything because Filestack provides a really intuitive interface to define all the steps of your workflow. Once that one workflow is executed, all the information related will go to your own endpoint. For example, you want to execute an optical character recognition. With a workflow, the file will be processed and then all the data will be sent to your own endpoint, into your backend. Or maybe you want to resize images, you want to look for virus detection or something else, all the information will go to your own endpoint. So you will have all the data related. So let's go and create a workflow. To create a workflow, you just need to navigate through your Filestack Developers portal in the Workflows tab. Here, you can see all your workflows. Right now, we are going to create a new one. For the application, we are going to create a workflow that executes several tasks. First, we want to check if the file is infected with some kind of malware. And if it is, we want to remove that file immediately. If the file is not infected, we are going to review if it's safe for work. If it's not, we are going to remove that file immediately. And finally, if the file is okay and passed all the filters, we are going to resize the file into two different files, one for a thumbnail and one for a standard size for our application. So right now, I'm going to add the virus detection feature. Then I'm going to add another feature, in this case, to remove original, to remove the file in case that is infected. Here we are going to be able to add conditions. So I'm going to remove this file if this field infected is set on true. And now I'm going to add the Safe for Work task. In this case, I'm going to apply this task if the infected field is set on false. I will do exactly the same thing right now. I will remove that file if it is not safe for work. If the safe for work field is set on false. And in the other case, that the file is actually safe for work, I'm going to apply the resize transformations. I'm going to resize the image if the field safe for work is set on true. And I will do it again. And now I want to store those files into my storage account. And now the workflow is completed. So we're going to add this workflow to be executed when we upload something from our file picker. Here in picker configuration, you will find how to do it exactly with JavaScript. I'm going to copy this and paste it into my application. And that's it. Right now, if we run our application, our workflow should work. But before running the workflow, I want to show you more about the endpoints. As I mentioned it before, once a workflow has been executed, all the information will go to a specific endpoint. In this case, I will add this endpoint example. In order to add my endpoint, I will navigate to the Configuration tab, and I'm going to click into the Webhooks tab. Here, I'm going to paste my endpoint, and I'm going to select that is for workflow. And that's it. All the data information will go to my endpoint. So let's try it out. While we are waiting, I'm going to open a JSON beautifier so we can better appreciate the data from the endpoint. As you can see, I just received all the information related to my upload. Here we can see all the tasks that were executed by my workflow. Here I can find that the file is safe for work, also that is not infected with any kind of malware. And additionally, I can see my new URLs from my resized images. And well, as you can see, workflows are a really powerful tool for file management. And well, this is just an overview of all the FileStack. Of course, there are a lot of more things that you can find in our website. But now I'm going to use this section of the webinar to talk a little about Froala. And well, in order to use the Froala library for React, you just need to run this command into your terminal. Once the Froala library has been already installed, you just need to import the libraries to interact with this Froala component. Remember that you must add the CSS libraries to include all the styles into your component. And now, we just need to create this component. And that's it. I'm just going to show this component instead of the other ones. And if we reload the page, we can see our Froala text editor with a lot of functionalities. This is really useful when you need to add some text editor into your web page. And as mentioned before, you can add plugins into this Froala editor. So right now, I'm going to show you how easy it is to add plugins into this Froala editor. And more specifically, we are going to add FileStack into this Froala editor. In order to do this, first we need to import the Froala editor function from Froala editor and the FileStack library. And then we just have to create a Froala editor function in which we are going to define first an icon. In this case, we are going to define the FileStack icon, including a web image and some description of it. After that, we need to register this button. In this case, we are going to use the Froala editor function and the register command option. In this case, I'm going to name it Open File Picker. This type will be a button, and we are going to include our FileStack icon and some title. After that, we are going to use our callback function. In this, we are going to add the code that will be executed once the button has been clicked. In this case, I'm going to open the file picker. And finally, we are going to add some configurations. In this case, I'm going to add some simple configurations. I'm going to add buttons for bold, italic, and underline to make it a minimalistic text editor. Additionally, I want to add my button, in this case my Open File Picker button, and enable the plugins, FileStack, Image, and Link. And that's it. With this, we are going to be able to actually include FileStack into your application. So let's try it out. Right here, we can see our Froala editor, but just with our configurations applied, and our FileStack button included. So right now, our Froala editor, that by itself includes a lot of functionalities, now is capable of upload files. And then there is a lot of possibilities. You can make a really complex text editors using Froala, and you can add a lot of complex functionalities using FileStack. And well, due to time constraints, we'll move on to the next segment. I'll now pass it over to Andres, who will walk us through building the application we discussed earlier, using the tools we just explained. Andres, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rodrigo. So what we're going to be doing next is actually creating the image gallery. So we're going to be using npm and bit to create the project. we have to first create the React project and then create the ReExt one. So this is quite simple. What we will be doing is just running the npm command to create the project. I already have a PowerShell window open here. All we have to do is actually just copy this command here. So npm create bit at latest, then our project name. I'm just gonna call it image as in image gallery, and then just enter template React SWC. This is going to be quite fast. The second part takes a little bit longer, which is actually running the command to install ReExt. So let me just go into our folder. As you can see here, we have our React project. So now let's just use npm to create our ReExt project. We have to run these 5 lines over here. We can do it one by one, or better yet, we can go into the npm ReExt website and look for the lines over here. I'm just gonna copy them here on the PowerShell. Even though these ones are for Mac, they're gonna work on Windows. I'm just gonna say paste anyways, and it's gonna take a while. So I have already done this. Actually, I called the project image gallery before, so that we don't have to wait until this is finished. We can go in and just test our application now. So let me open another PowerShell window for that project. npx bit dash dash open. And this is just gonna run our project, and it's gonna open in a new window, as you can see here. So if it's everything is installed correctly, we will have a grid on the left and a panel on the right. If I click on an entry, it's gonna load the data on that panel. And I can click here to either have it at the bottom or at the right. This is the basic template, but we don't want this. We want to modify it as much as possible to make it look like the gallery we showed you before. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I have a Visual Studio Code window open here. And let's go in and modify our project. As you can see, we have different folders. The one I want is the one called source. Here I'm gonna look for this file, main.jsx. Here is where I'm going to prepare my project. The first thing is that I'm gonna create a variable and I am going to call it reext data. Here is the place where I'm going to define the options. Just to be fast, I'm just gonna copy and paste. One of them is the SDK version. Then I have to specify the toolkit, the theme, if it's going to be running on debug or not, the base URL, and the location. When I'm testing and I want to be fast, I can use a remote location. This is gonna get it from the server. However, if I want to run from my local computer, I can just type local there instead. And inside public, I can create a folder here and just call it ext and put SDK there. Since this is just an example, I'm just gonna say remote. Also, package Froala editor. And here I'm just gonna say that's true. Once we have this, we have to pass this variable to the ReExt provider. And here all we do is ReExt data, and we pass that variable that we created before. We can specify we want a splash screen. We can specify in case we have a valid key for Froala, we can specify here. This will get rid of the watermark. Okay, I'm just gonna save. Okay, now that we have done this, we can go in and start changing our code. We go into app.jsx. This is where everything we're seeing on screen is. So for example, we have the grid. We want to create our own tools. So let's do just that. I'm gonna take everything that is inside the return and I'm just going to delete it. And here, let's just create what we need. Actually, I can take this part out, and here we can return whatever we want, of course. But instead of doing that, I'm going to create a component. I'm going to create a view folder, and inside that folder, I'm going to create the actual image gallery. So I'm just going to call it image gallery.jsx. And here, I'm going to create my actual project. And here I'm just gonna create that component. Instead of typing everything, I'm just gonna copy and paste a few things that I have already done. So as you can see, I'm just exporting the image gallery, which receives a title. And inside of it, I'm just gonna have a return. And here I can just basically return a reext panel. So let's just say xtype equals panel. And let's just say style here. Inside style, what I'm going to do is just put the actual width and height of our component. Then I'm gonna specify the actual config for this panel. The way this works, it's quite simple. It's basically what you can do in XJS, you can do here. So we have Xtype, we have style, we have config. Anything I want to do to the actual panel, I can put it here. If you've used XJS before and you know about our kitchen sink, you will know that over here we have a lot of components. Anything you see inside our examples, you can put inside the config property. So here I'm just gonna say title, I'm gonna say layout fit to make it fill the whole panel. Let's create a toolbar. Let's put just one button in there. So I'm just gonna say text, upload a photo. I'm gonna put a handler even though that's going to be empty for now. So we have created the component. Now I have to call it from our app.jsx file. I have to import that image gallery. So it's here. I'm just gonna import it just like that. I'm just going to use that image gallery here. I have just saved, and sorry, I made a mistake here. Typo. It's supposed to be the same folder. Now that I have that, we can go in and see that we have the title and we have that button that does nothing. If I don't want this button on the left side, I want it on the right side. It's quite easy. All I do, instead of just having the button here, I'll put an arrow there. And what that will do is that anything that is after that arrow is going to be pushed to the right. Let's continue. Now what I'm gonna be doing is create a data view. That data view is what's gonna display our images. So there are a few ways to do this. I can create the panel right in the middle over here, or I can just use XGS and put it as part of the config and just type items there and do it here. For simplicity though, I'm just gonna put it inside the config. We just use the items property and we specify an array. This is just gonna have a data view. So I'm just gonna say xtype data view. I'm gonna give it the size directly here. Gonna give it a reference. Then since I'm gonna be using a template to show each element, I need an item selector. Just gonna say div, give it any name I want. I'm just gonna call it data view item. Then here's the template. It's basically just a string, but in XJS and ReExt, I can basically just use an array. I have to specify for cycle there. And here, all I have to do is start the TPL template and end it. And right in the middle, I can put whatever I want. For example, for now, I'm just gonna put the name of the person that uploaded the picture. I will change it in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to show you what it does. So I'm just going to use a div, and inside the div, I actually have to use the class that I specified up there as the item selector. So data view item. And this is gonna create the view, but we are still not loading the data from the backend. So for that, I need a store, and the store needs a proxy to get the actual data. And let's just copy and paste. What it requires is the type, which in this case, it's just an AJAX call, the actual URL, and then we have the reader to know how to interpret that data. This is not going to load by default. If I wanted to auto load, I have to specify that as a key in there. So we tested, this is all we have. We have the names of the people that have uploaded images before. We want to put the image there to give it a better design. So instead of just having the username, what I'm going to do is actually just put the image in there and put the actual text. For the image, I'm just gonna use an image tag. I'm gonna put the CDN there. CDN, we're using Filestack for it. And the image, as Rodrigo showed you before, it has two different URLs. One is the thumbnail and one is the big image. I know that URL2 is the small image, so I'm using it there. I'm gonna give it a size. So basically, I'm gonna be using the size that we defined for with FileStack, and that's going to get that image for me. Then I'm actually going to put the text below it, and here I'm just going to put the username in it. Let's also give it a style. I'm just gonna say font size 13 pixels. What I did here before was specify a few more options for every image. So what I'm going to do is display this as an inline block. I'm also gonna give it a width and a height. So overflow is gonna be hidden. It's gonna display as an inline block. And I'm also going to add a border there. If we wanted, we can add a margin. We could add a few more options. And now that we have done that, this is how it looks. quite similar to what we had before. As you can see, it is quite easy to load the data and just create this view using ReExt. Now that we have that, what we can do next, add the option to show a window when one of those boxes are selected. Here I'm going to add a listener. What I will be using right now is select. It receives several parameters, but right now I'm just gonna use two of them, which is view and record. And I'm gonna get the data from there. So let's say let data equals record dot data. And I'm going to create a new window. We do it this way. If you're using Sencha, the way you create components, it's with xcreate. Then you have to specify the name of the component. I know it's quite hard to know the name of all components, but that is inside our Sencha docs or inside our kitchen sink. And over here, I'm just going to specify every single detail for this window. This is going to be quite simple too. Just going to call it details. Going to give it a width and a height, say 640. I'm going to say this is a model window so that the user cannot click anywhere else but the window. Gonna give it a padding. Gonna use HTML just to type something inside the window. Okay. Once this window is created, I have to show it. So I'm just gonna say my window.show. I'm gonna use view and I'm gonna deselect the actual record that I have just selected. This is to avoid multiple selections. Sorry, my keyboard is acting up. Instead of listener, it's listeners. So far what we have is list, and then we click on one of the options, we will get a window and we can close it up here. So now if we actually want to show the details from that record, what I'm going to do here is the same idea. I'm just gonna have an array. I'm gonna put everything in there and let's see what's going on. Click on one option and as you can see, this is what we have now. If I wanted to, I could also align the image to the center. Okay, so we're halfway done. The next step is to actually create the upload window. So for that, I'm going to create a new component. And once that component is done, I'm gonna call it from the handler function. So I'm going to views, I'm gonna create here window view.jsx. And once again, just to be fast, I'm just gonna copy and paste the beginning of it. And let's go ahead and create this window. Once again, I'm just gonna use ext directly. So I'm just gonna create my window, a window we can create with x.window.window. We specify all the options, which is the title, the width, the height, layout. Then I'm gonna use a body padding of 16 pixels. I'm gonna say this window, it's also a model window. For now, that's all I'm gonna be doing. In a second, I'll add a few more options. And then I'm gonna go back to the image gallery, and from there I'm gonna import that new window and I'm going to call it from the handler, just like that. You remember when we created a window over here, we had to show it. So here I have to do the same. So after I created the window, I have to show the window. Now we can go in and test. Here's the actual window to create our image. Okay, so what's next now? We're gonna create the actual form. So I'm gonna add the buttons. Of course, we could use a toolbar once again, or since we are creating a form, instead we can use buttons. This will also create a toolbar at the end of the window. Since I want everything aligned to the right, I'm gonna put the arrow again, and then I'm gonna create two buttons, one to cancel and the second one to upload the image and its data. The cancel button, I can put a handler in it, and to close the window, all I have to do is actually just call the close method. So this will close the window when I press on the cancel button. On the send button for now, I'm just gonna do the same. Okay, let's go down and create our form. So I'm gonna add one item to this window, which basically it's just the form, and the form will have the actual fields. So that's gonna have another array with the fields. This form, I'm gonna use a VBox layout. I'm gonna give it an ID. Let's call it image form. And I'm gonna also give it a reference. So this is just creating the form. If we want some fields, we have to put them there. The first field is just gonna be a combo box. So I can give it a field label. Just gonna call it user. I'm gonna give it the width of 100%. I'm just gonna type store. And over here, I'm just going to create it. I'm gonna make it auto load and I'm going to specify a proxy. This is the endpoint that I need, but we have to tell ReExt exactly which fields from the backend are going to be the fields we need to display. Gonna use the property display field to say that's going to be the username. And I'm gonna use the value field to specify the actual value field. I also need to give it a name. This name, it's the variable name that is going to be sent to the backend. So I'm just gonna say ID user and leave it like that. Now that we have the combo box, what's next? It's to create our image selector from Filestack. This is a little bit more complex. To do this, there's something that we haven't done yet, something that we're missing, but it's quite simple to do. And it's basically just going to the index.html and adding Filestack to our header. Okay, basically all we need is this line. This is how we load the API. Then I'll go back to the window view. I'm going to create the actual button. So I'm just gonna say xtype button. Gonna put a text on that button. Let's say select image. And let's put a handler in there. So here we need to specify a few parameters. The first of them is to initialize our client, which basically it's just like this, filestack.init. We need our key. So here is the key we get from filestack. And also then we need to specify the actual picker. So let's specify the picker. We'll use that client variable. We'll specify picker. And inside of it, we need to specify a few things. We're sending this image to a workflow, the workflow that Rodrigo created a few minutes ago. Store two workflows, because we can specify more than one, and then just an array with the string of the workflow. After that, we're gonna have an event that it's gonna get called once the image has finished uploading. And here what we can do is just grab that image and display it in our form. And also we could take the ID for the workflow and save it in a different field. So basically I'm just gonna add one more field. This is a text field. I'm just gonna call it FileStack ID. The value is empty right now. I need a name and I need an ID for easy reference so that I can copy this value from the selector to the actual text over here. So let me put my key here. And let's, what we're gonna do here now on the response part, I'm gonna get this field down here and I'm just gonna type there the actual job ID value. And just like with the window, we have to open the actual picker. So I'm just gonna say here picker.open. And before I forget, we haven't gotten the actual workflow ID. That one comes from the response. So I'm just going to add a loop here, which is basically looping through all the workflows that come from the response. I'm putting them right here. Okay, now that we have this part over here, there are two more things that we're missing. One is using the Froala editor, and the other one is just basically sending the data to the backend. So let's just add Froala. We have to go to the index.html again. Here we're going to add two extra lines to include Froala in our project. So after that file stack line, here I'm just loading the Froala editor. And of course I have to install it to actually include it. So let's go back to our terminal window and let's install Froala. So I'm gonna use npm again, install react Froala. What you see is what you get, save. So let's bring it from the npm and putting it in our project. Okay, that's ready. Let's run our project once again. After the text field, I'm gonna create a new one, but this time it's going to be a component. I'm gonna put some HTML there. And this component over here, I'm gonna give it an ID, gonna give it some scroll bars, and I'm going to show the Froala editor when this component is ready to render. So that's why I'm using this listener. Then I'm gonna create the Froala editor. I need to do one extra thing though, so that I can get the value later. I'm gonna create a variable inside the window. I'm gonna say my Froala editor. Just gonna say it's a null value. And when I create the Froala editor, I'm gonna save it inside that variable. My window dot my Froala editor, and this is gonna be equals new Froala editor, and as a parameter, I'm gonna give it the name I gave the ID. Let's save and let's see if everything is working. As you can see now, we have the user selector, we have the select image, and we have the Froala editor working. Okay, now that we are up to this point, let's actually just save. So here, all I have is the close window instruction. If you remember, we have an ID for the form. I'm gonna use that. So I'm just gonna say image form equals ext.getComponent to call that image form. Then I'm gonna validate the image form. So let's put this inside an if. I'm gonna put the values that we get from the form inside this values variable. So once again, I'm gonna use that image form, gonna get the form, and then I'm gonna get the actual values. And they're gonna be saved inside this variable. Now, if you remember, I said that I needed a way to get the Froala editor value. So this is where I'm gonna put the description, and I'm gonna get it from my window dot my Froala editor. This one contains some HTML, and with get we can get the actual HTML that the user captured on our editor. Now we have to send all these values to the backend. Right now I'm just gonna use an AJAX request just to make sure that everything goes as we need them. I'm gonna use a post method. That's what the backend is expecting from us. I'm going to send the values this way using the URL, which now it's JS images inside the same server. The headers, it's application JSON. This is how the backend requires it. I'm sending the data as a JSON, and once it's done, I will receive a success event, and I can do whatever I want in it. And if it fails, it's gonna call a failure event here. If everything goes correctly, what I'm gonna do is actually close the window here, not when the user clicks the button, but when the event is successful. And if it fails, I'm gonna use an XJS window to tell the user that something went wrong. Let's say failure, couldn't upload image. So the ID, instead of being a text field, it's going to be a hidden field. The image, I'm just gonna put it inside a component. I already have it, so I'm just gonna put it here. Just gonna give it that height, and it's going to be just here. So we have the component, but we don't actually have the image there. So let's add the code to put the image inside this component. Let's get that uploaded image component. I'm just going to copy and paste from over here. I'm creating a div with the height that I have available for that component. And then I'm just gonna put the image as a background image there. And here's the response URL we are getting from Filestack so that we can show it in there. Let's actually make the window a little bit bigger. Instead of 600, I'm gonna say 800 pixels. And instead of 90 pixels for this image, let's just say 120 so that it's a little bit bigger. This is not the same name. Okay, and now with this, it should be ready. So let's try it. And I'm gonna upload one more. I'm gonna say this was me. Let's select an image. Let's grab this one. Upload. Okay, and here's the image. Let's type something. Let's say we're in our test. Just to show that it works. And let's send it. If we refresh, it should be there. Here it is. We click. So now it is working. As you can see, it's quite simple to get it to work with ReExt, Filestack, and Froala. Of course, you don't need to use all these three tools, but using them together makes everything simple. And while we didn't show you how to use RAD server, that was also quite easy. It's a tool that lets you create the endpoints in just a few steps. So, anyways, we hope you enjoyed what we just showed you. And thank you again, everybody. And I'll see you in the next webinar.
Thank you, Andres. So for now, we will now move towards our Q&A session. I will be picking the questions for Froala first, so the Froala-centric questions first. The first one, I believe Rodrigo can answer, is how can I customize Froala's user interface to match the aesthetic of my website?
Oh, okay. Well, you can customize the Froala editor's user interface using CSS to modify the default styles. Well, Froala provides a structure of CSS classes that you can actually adjust to change color, sizes, and other visual aspects. Additionally, you can add your own icons and customize the toolbar to match with your site design.
Great. So the next one is more of a technical question. So how can you get the text from Froala when it's loaded on your page?
Well, of course, it will depend. But for example, specifically, if you are using React, you can use a state variable to manage the editor's content. You can define this variable as a model in the Froala editor component. For example, you can use the React use state hook to create a state variable and then pass it as the model prop to the editor. This allows the editor's content to update and synchronize with your React state.
Okay. Lastly, I think this is the last for the Froala questions. Is uh, does Froala support multiple or different languages?
Yeah, actually, Froala supports more than 38 languages. By default, the language is English, but you can configure the editor to operate with your preferred language. Yeah.
Okay, it's cool. Um, and then now I have collected these questions for Filestack. So the first one is it possible to modify the style of the file picker?
Uh, yeah, actually, it's possible to modify the style using a specific CSS classes, well, provided by Filestack. You can customize the appearance of the file picker by adjusting these classes in your style sheet.
Great. Second one that I see here is when a file is uploaded with FileStack, how will they be able to know if it's uploaded successfully? Like, can they get real-time information?
Oh, okay. Well, in this case, you can use the callback functions. Well, essentially, FileStack provides several events, such as on upload done, on selected, on file selected, and on error, for example. And you can use this to execute code in response to different stages of the file upload process.
Okay, that's very cool. And the third one is it possible to restrict the type of files that can be uploaded using FileStack?
Okay, yeah, that's actually possible. Uh, well, you can specify a list of allowed types in the file picker's configurations. For example, you can configure the file picker to accept only images, for example, or just specific documents such as PDFs or PNG images.
Great. And the last one, I believe this is the last question for FileStack that I see. Like, how can I integrate authentication and permissions with FileStack to control who can upload files?
Okay, perfect. Well, actually, FileStack offers robust security options, including security policies and signatures that allow you to control who can upload files and under what conditions. You can generate security policies and signatures on your server to define rules such as expiration time, allowed file types, and actions that can be performed with the uploaded files. These policies can be integrated into the upload process to authenticate users and restrict access as needed.
Great. Um, Now we move towards the Sencha. So I've been collecting the questions earlier. So now this is for Sencha. Like first one, this is maybe for Andres now to answer is ReExt compatible with all versions of XJS and React?
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, if you get ReExt, you can actually select the version you want to use. I mean, not completely compatible with all the older versions, but if you're using 5, 6, or 7, and they're minus versions, it's gonna work without an issue.
Okay, that's good to know. And then the next one would be they are asking what are the main advantages of XJS, like for creating web applications or for web development.
Uh, the advantage of using XJS for web applications, well, if you use XJS, you're getting a full framework, meaning you're using, you're not only getting the SDK, you're getting some extra applications. You're getting Sencha Architect if you want a graphical IDE. You're also getting a Sencha Themer to design the CSS for your application. But also, if you're using XJS, one of the greatest things is that we have been in the market for a long time. So Sencha has a lot of options that the other frameworks are playing catch up. Even if they are a little bit more popular, we are the ones that it's more secure and well, and like I'm saying, it has a lot more components, more options to make your life easier.
Hmm. So yeah, the next one would be connected to that since it's more technical. It's what are the types of connections do XJS store support?
Well, you can use basically REST and AJAX. I know there are some other options which I don't use. Those two are the ones that we are using most of the time. So you can just select which one you want to use. You can connect to the backend. And what comes from the backend usually comes as a JSON string or an XML string. And XJS can understand it and just turn it into a JavaScript object or array to show it on the screen.
Okay. So next one actually again is connected to that. They're asking about a bit more general. So
Mhm.
what are the best practices that should be followed so when using ReExt or XJS?
Well, if you're using XJS, not actually ReExt, the best idea is to start from a template that will give you all the folders you need. They are not really required, but it'll, like you said, it's going to be the best practice to have a view folder, to have a store model and folders like those, and have everything put in the correct place to make it easier to work on. If you are using ReExt, of course, you can do it the way we did it today by using Bit. Um, and what I would recommend it's also to use the same folders, view, store, and all the other ones. Put everything there into folders. One of the advantages of using ReExt is if you are used to working with XJS, you can basically just wrap around your XJS code the ReExt tag, and that would be more than enough. But if you are good with React and you don't know much about XJS, then uh, you can just go ahead and create the components you need. And you don't need to, but if you do that, it'll be easier to update. Because as I showed before, you can just use the ReExt instruction there and do every component that way. But if you want to reuse code, the best idea is to create your own React components by using the ReExt tag, which I showed a little bit today. But if people are interested in more information, we're going to have a few more webinars with Sencha where we show things like that.
Yeah. The last one is what is the difference between extending a component and using overrides in XJS?
Uh, well, we didn't go through that today, but one thing it's XGS does have the ability to extend from existing components. So even if XGS has 140 components, you can create your own by extending one of those. So if you go ahead and let's say you grab a button and you extend from it, you're creating a new button and you can add whatever you want inside of it. I've done buttons that have charts inside of them. I've also created buttons that have grids in them. So you can put whatever you want inside of an existing component. But by extending, you're creating new components. If you use overrides, instead of actually creating a new component, you are updating the existing one. So let's say you have a button and you want to modify all of them, maybe add a functionality to all of your buttons, then I would use an override because that will modify all the buttons. If I use an extension and if I extend, then I'm creating a new one. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I believe so. That's a very good explanation in the difference. Thank you.
No problem.
Um, yeah, so I don't think I have any other questions now. So as we come close to our webinar, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who joined us today. Your enthusiasm and engagement has made this session truly special. So very thankful for your questions, everyone. And obviously, a big round of applause to our exceptional speakers and experts, Rodrigo Guillen from Filestack and Andres Villalba from Sencha. So yeah, their insights and expertise have been invaluable in showcasing how to create the ultimate photo gallery app. So to recap, we have explored the powerful combination of Froala, Filestack, and Sencha. And I hope you're all inspired to apply these tools in your own projects. So as Andres mentioned, you don't have to use everything, but you can see as well in the webinar how easy it is for and how seamless the tools can work together. So remember that this recording of the webinar will be available after this, and we will send it to your emails, the ones that you used to register for this webinar. If you have any questions or in need of further assistance with Froala, Filestack, or Sencha, please do not hesitate to reach out to our support teams. We will be happy and glad to support you in your projects. So thank you once again for your participation. We look forward to seeing uh, your own versions of the photo gallery apps that you'll create. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.